Loneliness doesn't just feel heavy, it leaves fingerprints on the brain. And when you look at the research, it's not a small effect either. Chronic loneliness is linked with a dramatically higher risk of dementia. So today, we're closing out our brain health framework with a tool that's often overlooked because it sounds almost too simple: human connection. I'm Kristen Beasley, a certified functional medicine, nutrition, and brain health coach. Welcome back to the Healthy Life Approach podcast. And if you're thinking, okay, but I'm an introvert, stay with me. This episode is not a pep talk about becoming the life of the party. It's about understanding what your brain actually needs, why it needs it, and how to build it in a way that fits your real life. So let's start with why this matters right now, especially for women. About two-thirds of Alzheimer's patients are women. And during perimenopause, as estrogen declines, a lot of women notice changes that feel unfamiliar: memory slips, more mood swings, less stress resilience. That can make you want to pull back and handle it all privately. But the biology points in the opposite direction. This is a season when support becomes more valuable, not less. That's not a weakness. That is how the brain and nervous system work. Now, let's talk numbers because the stats here are honestly startling. People with strong relationships have about a 50% higher chance of survival over time, which researchers compare to the benefits of quitting smoking. In studies looking at dementia specifically, the most socially active people had around a 38% lower risk. Social engagement didn't just reduce risk, it pushed the timeline back, delaying the onset of dementia by roughly 5 years. On the flip side, loneliness on its own was linked with higher dementia risk and an even higher risk for Alzheimer's specifically. So, what is it about connection that changes the brain? Think of a real conversation as a full body brain workout. Your brain isn't just processing words, it is tracking facial expressions, reading tone, noticing pauses, sensing emotion, predicting what the other person means, and then adjusting your response in real time. It's dynamic, it's flexible, it's alive. Compare that to something like a crossword puzzle. Helpful, sure, but the crossword doesn't react to you. It doesn't misunderstand you. It doesn't change direction mid-sentence. A spreadsheet doesn't have feelings. A person does. That's why social interaction trains cognitive flexibility in a way that many solo brain games simply can't replicate. And then there's the chemistry. Connection changes your internal environment. Oxytocin supports trust and helps settle the nervous system. Dopamine gives you that sense of reward and meaning when you feel seen. And then there's BDNF, which you can think of like fertilizer for brain cells. Social interaction can boost it. When the connection is missing, BDNF can drop, and that's a problem because it's tied to learning, memory, and resilience in the brain. Loneliness also has a stress effect. When you feel socially unsafe or chronically disconnected, cortisol patterns can get thrown off. Over time, that dysregulation contributes to systemic inflammation, and that slow, smoldering inflammation is one of the major pathways we see connected to cognitive decline. In other words, loneliness isn't just in your head, it becomes a whole body signal that can wear down the brain over time. Now, if you're introverted, we need to clear something up. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Solitude can be healing. A slow Saturday morning, coffee, a journal, a quiet walk, that can be exactly what your nervous system loves. Loneliness is different. Loneliness is the ache of needing connection and not having it. It's feeling unseen or untethered. Here's the tricky part. Even people who genuinely enjoy being alone can still experience the brain effects of isolation if they don't have enough human contact. You can be perfectly content in solitude and still have a brain that benefits from regular interaction because your brain is built for contact. It's an input it expects. But here's the good news for introverts, and it's a big one. Quality matters more than quantity. A study out of Sweden found that the quality of relationships predicted loneliness far better than the number of relationships. So no, you do not need 25 friends. Most people don't. The goal is a small number of real connections that feel safe and steady. So let's make this practical with 3 introvert-friendly strategies that still deliver the cognitive benefit. First, side-by-side connection. This could be walking, gardening, crafting, yoga, even running errands with someone you like. The magic here is that the activity carries the moment. You're together, your brains are interacting, but there isn't the pressure of constant eye contact or constant talking. And silence while you're moving often feels normal, not awkward. Second, build restorative niches into your social life. Translation, plan recovery time on purpose. You connect, you recharge, and then you connect again. This prevents social burnout, and it makes it more likely you'll keep showing up in a way that feels genuine instead of forced. Third, assume your prediction about socializing is probably wrong. Research on affective forecasting shows that introverts often overestimate how draining or unpleasant social interactions will be. Have you ever debated saying hi, then did it, and felt surprisingly better? Exactly. Even a 10-second exchange with a barista or a neighbor can increase your sense of belonging. And for some introverts, the boost can be even stronger than for extroverts because it's less expected. So, what does a realistic weekly plan look like? One that actually respects how you're wired. Step one, pick one group activity per week, something like a dance class, a choir, volunteering, an exercise class, or a walking group. The reason this works is that the activity carries the load. You don't have to perform conversation for an hour straight, you just have to show up. And there's fascinating research on dance in particular, with one long-term study linking frequent dancing with a dramatically reduced dementia risk across decades. Step two, aim for 2 meaningful interactions each week with people you're close to. They can be brief. This isn't about scheduling a 2-hour dinner that leaves you depleted. It's about real connection, a voice note, a short phone call, a 10-minute check-in where you actually feel like yourself. Step three, daily week ties. Weak ties are those small interactions with people you recognize but don't know deeply. The front desk person, the neighbor you see on walks, the cashier at the same grocery store, a genuine hello, a quick how's your day going. These are low effort and high return because they reinforce that you belong to a community, not just a household. Step four, consider volunteering, 2 to 4 hours a week if it fits your life. Volunteering is powerful because it combines meaning, routine, and people. Studies have linked volunteering with slower cognitive decline over time. And there's something emotional happening there. You're needed, you're useful, and you're part of something. That matters to your brain. One more important note. More people is not automatically better. If your social life is full of conflict, criticism, or feeling like you're walking on eggshells, that's not connection, that's stress. Sometimes social health means pruning, setting boundaries, or changing the container. Maybe a tense dinner becomes a walk instead. Maybe you shorten the window. Maybe you stop handing your nervous system to the same dysregulating experience and calling it a friendship. When we look at the big research icons, the pattern gets even clearer. The blue zones, regions known for exceptional longevity, consistently show that lifestyle drives a huge portion of long-term health, and social connection is foundational in those environments. In Okinawa, for example, people are placed in small friendship groups as children, and those relationships often last a lifetime. That kind of continuity isn't just heartwarming, it's protective. And then there's the Harvard study of adult development, running for decades. One of the clearest takeaways is also one of the simplest. Good relationships keep us healthier and happier. People who felt more satisfied in their relationships in midlife tended to be healthier later on. And one statistic from that body of research is hard to forget. Relationship satisfaction predicted physical health better than cholesterol levels. If you remember one thing from today, make it that. Now, let's bring this into the reality of midlife. For many women, this is when the social landscape shifts. Kids leave home, careers change, some marriages end, friendships fade, not always because of conflict, but because life gets rearranged. If your circle has gotten smaller, that's not a personal failure, it's common season. If you're rebuilding, here's a surprisingly effective approach. Go to the same place consistently, the same class, the same coffee shop, the same volunteer shift. Your brain likes familiarity because it signals safety, and safety is what allows the connection to grow. Over time, strangers become familiar faces. Familiar faces become small talk. Small talk becomes trust, and trust becomes friendship. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a few questions you can sit with this week. First, who are the 2 or 3 people you feel most like yourself around? Not who should you be close to, who makes you exhale. Second, what kind of connection restores you? Is it one-on-one, side-by-side, a shared project, a slow walk, a short call? Knowing your style helps you stop chasing the wrong format. Third, what is one small action you can repeat weekly for the next month? One, not 10, something you can actually sustain. And fourth, what's quietly getting in the way? Is it logistics like time and transportation? Or is it a belief like, I don't want to bother people? Because most people are more open than we assume. A simple message like, I've been thinking about you, I'd love to catch up, is often received with relief, not annoyance. Here's the bottom line. Connection is not a side topic. It is a foundation. The research links it to better survival, lower dementia risk, and more years of cognitive health. But your next step is not forcing you into a loud, packed event. Your next step is one small bid for connection with one person in a way that fits who you are. Then doing it again next week. That's how it becomes a practice, and that practice can become one of the most underrated tools we have for protecting brain health over the long run. If you lead a women's health initiative, an HR program, or organize conferences, and you'd like to bring this conversation to your audience, I'd love to connect. You'll find the link in the description. Take care of your beautiful brain. Quick disclaimer before we close. I am a health coach, not a licensed medical professional. This episode is for education only and isn't medical advice. Please talk with your healthcare provider about your personal situation and always verify health information before making changes. This podcast may include affiliate links.